Hello, happy Pride Month everyone. This is a different Pride Month video as I thought to try something different. I'm going to make 10 different characters based on the combination of two flags. I asked the server and my friends for some random sexualities, identities, and outfit styles. They called me crazy and provided me the ideas, while I also did my own research. I decided to go a step further and use the wheel to determine the physical look of each character, because I'm not very creative. I'll be reading about the description of each sexuality and gender identity, so we all learn together. Yay! Anyways, let's hop right into it. This will be our first character. Oh, just as a disclaimer, yes, this video is inspired by Beowulf's recreating your overseas videos. They really inspired me to make this, so make sure you give us some love. Yeah. So, bisexual and transgender. What are they? I'm sure a good portion of people already know what they are, but here's the definitions of both, just in case. Bisexual is defined as a person who is attracted to men and women, whether it's romantically, sexually, or emotionally. However, this doesn't exclude those who aren't a part of the gender binary in terms of attraction. Transgender is when a person's gender identity doesn't match the sex assigned to them at birth. This includes transgender women and men. Of course, there are many branches under the transgender spectrum, but for this character, I'm going with the classic blue, pink, and white. Lesbian and intersex. People may know lesbian more, but some may not know the definition of intersex. Lesbians are generally women or anyone who does not identify as a man, having romantic and/or sexual attraction to women only. Intersex means someone who is born with different parts of male and female anatomy biologically. There are many variations to intersex, though these are the general definitions of both. Here's a couple of identities you may not know. Polysexual and Demiboy. Polysexual is having a romantic or sexual attraction to more than one person at the same time. These people could be in polyamorous relationships or they could simply have an attraction to many. Fun fact, poly means several or many in Latin, hence the name of this specific sexuality. Demiboy is someone who identifies as partially masculine but doesn't fully fall into being a boy. It's like if non-binary and boy had a baby together and Demiboys were the result. Wow, would you look at that? I ended up with a Demigirl and Era race, almost the complete opposite of the previous character. Era ace is when someone experiences little to no romantic and sexual attraction, though this is a spectrum as someone can be considered era ace, but be in a romantic relationship with a partner. Just because someone's era ace doesn't particularly mean they're going to be single for the rest of their life, because it's a spectrum. Demigirl is similar to Demiboy. They are people who identify as partially feminine but doesn't fall into being a girl. So we have one part of era ace from the previous character, and that was asexual. We also ended up with genderfluid. Asexuality is generally someone who experiences little to no sexual attraction. This means they could be in a romantic relationship, but without the intimacy. Asexuality is a spectrum, as mentioned earlier. As I said, little sexual attraction, rather than no attraction at all. Fun fact, I'm on the asexual spectrum, demisexual to be specific. Genderfluid is a gender identity that is not fixed. This means that an individual can identify as feminine one day, and then identify as masculine the next, to identifying as gender neutral and so on and so forth. These changes fluctuate depending on the individual. It can range from days to even hours, so be sure to ask what they are identifying as at the moment. Alright, we got one we're very familiar with, and one I'm not so familiar with, so forgive me if I don't get this definition. Gay, as you all know, is men or someone who doesn't identify as feminine, having romantic and or sexual attraction to men only. Fun fact, this was the first ever sexuality I learned, and I was really open to it as a child, surprisingly. Androgyne. I'm not too familiar with this gender identity because 1. I had to find the pronunciation and write it down in the scripts for me to remember, and 2. I found 2 definitions of androgyne, so I'll be reading both just in case. First definition of androgyne is someone who has characteristics of both male and female. The second definition is someone who doesn't have those characteristics. What I'm assuming that this is another spectrum, but feel free to correct me in the comments. I may be a straight ally, but I still don't know a lot. This would probably fit the aesthetic that was assigned to me by the almighty wheel, or the colors will completely mess with me. You know the drill. What are aromantic and bigender? Aromantic is when someone experiences little to no romantic attraction. However, this doesn't mean they are devoid of being in a relationship with another person. Like asexuality, aromantic is a spectrum ranging from needing certain conditions for romantic attraction to occur to having no romantic attraction at all. Bigender is when someone identifies as both male and female, or as 2 genders, hence the name bigender. It is considered a branch to non-binary, but I'm not too well informed about this specific gender identity. Somehow I was able to pull off the vibrant colors with the muted colors with this character. We're getting close to the finish line, or at least I was, because I think around this point, that was when the regret started to kick in, but I was willing to complete my challenge for this Pride Month. Anyways, pansexual is defined as having romantic and or sexual attraction to anyone regardless of gender. So regardless of what you identify as, there might be a pansexual person that thinks you're drop dead gorgeous. Genderqueer is someone who doesn't follow any gender norms, or they have a combination of different gender identities. Overall, this seems like an umbrella term, but I could be massively wrong. I am trying to learn as much as I can for this video. Reaching closer to the end, so Omnisexual and Agender. There would be a lot of colors, but that's the point of this challenge. Omnisexual is being attracted to anyone regardless of gender, but having a preference to one specific gender more. This basically means, while these people are attracted to everyone, they lean towards a certain group of people. For example, someone may lean towards more men, but they are still attracted to everyone. That's basically it. Agender is characterized as a lack of gender, meaning they don't identify with any of the gender identities in this video. That's just who they are, and that's completely valid. And here is our final character. Now, am I crazy for attempting this challenge? Yeah, but it was worth it in the end, because it really pushed my creativity and gave me a strict guideline to follow on making these characters. So here's our final two for this video. Abrosexual is gender fluidity, meaning that their sexual orientation is constantly changing. Think of it as the sexuality version of gender fluid. It can change every now and then, or change more frequently. They could be asexual one day and pansexual the next, so on and so forth. But that doesn't mean that being in a relationship can be difficult. Non-binary is defined as an in-between or completely separate gender that is outside of the gender binary. Non-binary has become more of an umbrella term for those who do not identify as male or female, but it is its own separate identity. And here we are to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed watching the recordings of me making the characters while telling you all kinds of different genders and sexualities, because no matter what someone identifies as, they are valid. Pride Month is about acceptance and learning, so I hope you learned a thing or two, because I certainly did. I've also made one more edit with all 10 characters in one picture. Feel free to make headcanons or name the characters, because I definitely have some in mind, as you see in this edit. If you would like me to try again next Pride Month, be sure to like this video and comment any genders or sexualities that you'd like to see in the future, or if you want me to use the same ones and see what combinations I get. Thanks for watching, and once again, happy Pride Month, ladies and gentlemen, gays and theys. Bye bye.